Aloha, welcome to the orientation for grant solicitation number OHA 21-06 for OHA's Native Hawaiian Teacher Education and Professional Development Grant. Feel free to follow along on either the solicitation or the PowerPoint, which both can be found on our website at www.oha.org/grants. This solicitation was released on Monday, March 29, 2001. And here are the important dates for this particular solicitation. The most important being the application deadline, which is Friday, April 16, 2021 at 2 p.m. The other dates listed are subject to change. It depends on the number of applications we get and the amount of time it takes to review. But the anticipated start date is October 1. For any questions regarding the solicitation or the application, please email us at grantsinfo@oha.org. The minimum qualifications for this grant, I know this looks a little lengthy, but it's important to note that each applicant should meet each of these points. Be a nonprofit community-based organization that certifies that your board doesn't have any conflict of interest, and also certifies that your bylaws or policies address any conflict situations. You must be registered to do business in the state of Hawaii and have a compliant certificate of vendor compliance. You must also demonstrate that you're in good standing with the state of Hawaii. You also must need to provide services to Native Hawaiians or Native Hawaiian communities in Hawaii. You should be considered in good standing with OHA, and this is only if you have received previous OHA grants. If you're not in good standing with OHA, you would have received an email or notification of that ineligible status. If you have not received one, then most likely you are in good standing. You must also certify that you have all the licenses and permits, etc., to perform your proposed services. You should also certify that the authorized signatory has the legal power to sign and submit your application. You need to have a minimum of 3 years of experience providing your proposed services. You must also certify that if you are awarded, you will develop and implement a COVID-19 preparedness and response plan. And finally, you need to agree to hold OHA and the state of Hawaii harmless for activities undertaken with this grant funding if you are awarded. These are all listed in the solicitation as well, so no need to memorize. The grant award total available is $250,000 subject to the availability of funding, and it is for 1 year. Project activities must be completed in 1 year. There are funding restrictions that will be allocated based on the proposals, and all proposals should be between $50,000 to a maximum of $175,000. The grant award period, again, we anticipate it to start on October 1, 2021, and it should be for 12 months, 1 year, September 30th, 2022. If the start date should change, it would end 12 months following that start date. Again, your project activities must be able to be completed in a 1 year period. I wanted to point out the use of a fiscal sponsor. We've been seeing increases in the use of fiscal sponsors. Both the fiscal sponsor and the applicant need to be nonprofit organizations and deemed as such by the IRS. An applicant that received or serves as a fiscal sponsor for 2 or more fiscal year 2021 OHA programmatic grants is ineligible to receive this grant. If you've received an AHA Hui grant, that is excluded from this restriction. The purpose of this OHA grant is to award projects that are designed to increase Native Hawaiian teacher recruitment and retention in our Kaiapuni and Native Hawaiian focused public charter schools. So the Kaiapuni is defined as the Hawaiian language program that consists of 25 sites statewide. And Hawaiian focused public charter schools are the 17 schools that currently receive funding from OHA that are part of the Malay Na'auao Alliance. Project proposals may include projects that are listed as such here, but these are just some examples. You could propose projects that are different from these as well. So it's just some examples. Again, a Hawaiian language and cultural professional development program for the Kaiapuni or Hawaiian focused charter school teachers, or programs that provide tuition and fee stipends for Native Hawaiians that commit to teaching in either of those systems, or programs that provide support for these teachers to receive additional licensure or professional certificates. So again, these are just examples, and you may include other types of projects in your proposal. If you have any questions about whether your project would be eligible, please don't hesitate to email us again at grantsinfo@oha.org. If you should be awarded, these are the reporting requirements. We do have required quarterly reports that are all submitted through our grants portal. It would be the same grants portal you use to submit your application. Your grant reporting every quarter would include a progress report or a narrative report, and also a performance measurement table, an expenditure report, your invoice to bill us for your expenditures, and the assurance of benefit to Native Hawaiians form. Also, as part of reporting requirements, we do have an annual on-site or virtual. Because of COVID, we've been doing virtual monitoring visits. The visits may include interviews with your staff or participants. We do review of all your records and your program files, including invoices, pay stubs, sign-in sheets, and the like. And this is just for document testing, and we're looking for internal control supports. So you don't have to turn these in with your quarterly reports, but we do ask if you have them prepared and on file in case we do request them for review. Financial requirements include the ACH or automated clearinghouse requirement. We do require that all awardees complete the form that will allow for automatic ACH payments. The method of payment is cost reimbursement. So we do set you up with an initial payment, and then therefore moving forward after your initial payment, all other payments to the grantee is on a cost reimbursement basis. Your compensation broken down. Like I said, you will get an initial payment. We try to provide enough support upfront for you to get your grant program off the ground and running in the first quarter. And you will receive an initial payment once the contract is executed and the submission of your invoice along with your current certificate of liability insurance and a press release are submitted. All subsequent payments thereafter are based on a review and approval of your quarterly reports. And then also you should know that we do retain up to 10% of your total contract amount for the final payment. Setting up your portal account is very easy. You can find this link on our website again at www.oha.org/grants. You click on that green button and it'll walk you through. If you do need a tutorial prior to clicking on the green button, they have two below that you can access as well. Once you set up your account, you can begin your application process. If you need to take a break or for whatever reason need to pause your application, you can save it and access it through this link here on our website. Again, we do recommend that you bookmark this website just so that it's easily accessible and you can get to your application easily. For application instructions, just an overview, you will be required to provide supporting documents that are required to be uploaded. Each upload has size limitations, which are listed in the application as well. And you are required to provide a response for each item. If you don't have a response, please insert not applicable or NA in that answer box. The application will not allow you to submit it if you have an empty box. So please ensure you have something written in each answer box. The application questions do have character limits, which are also noted in the application, so you can see how far or how much more space you have. For this application, we are only accepting one application per organization. And we do advise you that you review your application for accuracy and completeness before you click submit. If there is a case that you submit and you feel like you should have elaborated more on an answer, or you forgot to upload something, or you realized you upload an outdated form, please email us and we will try our best to get back to you in a reasonable time frame so that you can provide the corrected document or the additional information that you wanted to provide in your application. What we would do at that point is reopen your application for you to complete it. Please allow for enough time for this to happen. Please be aware that we may not get to your email or your notification in time. So if you do have to get back into your application, please ensure that you are allowing yourself and the OHA grants team enough time to make that happen. There are two phases to our application and evaluation process. The first phase is your application, which you will do online. And then the second phase is the evaluation and recommendation for award, which is OHA's Kuleana. The application scoring system is pretty much in this matrix that's listed in the solicitation as well. But you will see all the categories here. Some categories are broken down into subcategories, and each category is worth its own set of points. You will notice here that the basic information and purpose section is not worth any points, but this is where you will tell us your basic information, organization name, project name, etc. And we will go through that in the next couple slides. This is the evaluation criteria that the reviewers will be using to score your application. So of course, we would want you all to fall in the exceeds expectation category. So if you go back and look at the matrix, you can see here, for example, for background and capacity, in order to receive an exceeds expectation score of 9 or 10, you would have to meet all of the evaluation criteria for exceeds expectation for that particular point category. So starting with the first category, again, this basic information, which is worth 0 points. Please ensure, again, that you submit a response for every question. So number 1 is your organization name. Number 2 is fiscal sponsor. If you are using a fiscal sponsor, you shall provide their organization name in this question. Number 3 is project name. And 4 is your purpose statement, which is where you will tell us the purpose of your project. And you may use this template here as a guide. Number 5 is the number of Native Hawaiians to be served. And this is the number of Native Hawaiians, the number of Native Hawaiians that are served by the program that you're proposing. Number 6 is the island location. So you may choose all that apply. Ensure you're using the correct solicitation and application. Kalamai, there is only one application for this solicitation, so you don't have to worry about that. Number 7, please let us know how much you are requesting. Again, the minimum is $50,000 and the maximum is $175,000. Number 8, please list your project contacts. We do need a primary and a secondary contact person for your grant. These contact people should be familiar with the proposed project and activities. They will be who we will be contacting if your organization is awarded a grant. Number 9 is the authorized signatory. So basically, who has the signing authority over legal and financial agreements? Who will be signing your contract should it be awarded? Number 10 is litigation, pretty straightforward, just list any issues that you have in litigation. Number 11 is your governing board and executive team. Please provide a list of their names. You do not need to provide any resumes of that or anything of that nature. Just their names and their titles are sufficient for this question. Number 12, licenses or permits. This is where you will certify that you do have the applicable licenses and or permits required for your proposed project. Number 13 is also a certification, and here you will certify that you have sufficient funds available to execute the project that you are proposing. Number 14 is the final certification in this area. And you will just certify here that if you are awarded, you will have a COVID-19 preparedness and response plan and make it available upon request. The next section is regarding the required documents to upload. So I want to just be clear about this section. These documents are required, and I'll go through each one. The first is your IRS letter of determination. This is a letter directly from the IRS, and it's pretty much every letter states the same thing if you are deemed a nonprofit organization. So make sure you upload that. If you are using a fiscal sponsor, upload your fiscal sponsor's IRS letter of determination. If you are not using a fiscal sponsor, only your IRS letter of determination is required. This next one is a biggie, the Certificate of Vendor Compliance. This comes directly from the Hawaiʻi Compliance Express. This CVC shall be marked compliant. And we ask for this document because it provides a one-stop snapshot of all of the compliance that we require. So from the IRS, from the State of Hawaii Tax Department, the DLIR, and the DCCA. It's all in one place, which is why this document is required. If you're using a fiscal sponsor, only your fiscal sponsor's CVC is required. If you're not using a fiscal sponsor, only your CVC is required. We recommend that you check on this right as soon as you can, like immediately. There are some holdups, and unfortunately, there are no other documents that we will accept in its place. If you already know that your CVC is not compliant, you may seek a fiscal sponsor with a compliant CVC that is willing to sponsor you for this application. The CVC must be current within 3 months of the application due date. So this application is due on April 16th, which means that your CVC must be dated January 16th, 2021 or after. Any CVC that is dated prior to January 16th is unacceptable, and your application will be deemed ineligible. Other required documents to upload is the application authorization form and the board governance certification form. Those are both OHA documents that you will download from the electronic application, complete, and then re-upload into the application. The next two forms are only if you are using a fiscal sponsor. If you click no for this question, it'll bypass these forms. But if you are using a fiscal sponsor, you are required to submit a fiscal sponsor certification form, which would be signed by the fiscal sponsor's representative. And you will also need to submit a sponsored organization form, which would be submitted by the applicant and signed by the applicant's representative. Again, these two forms are only if you are using a fiscal sponsor. The final two required documents are the current liability certificate of liability insurance. I want to point out here that if you do not have a current certificate, or you do not even have insurance at this moment, it's okay. You can write a letter and upload that letter in its place. The letter can just explain to us why you do not have liability insurance at the moment, and that if you are awarded, that you would intend to get that insurance to be compliant with the requirements. The match funding certification form is also a required document. On this form, it's also an OHA form, which you download from the application and re-upload. And it is a form fillable, and this is a form where you would just list all the sources of your match funding. Going into the actual application questions, so that are worth points. This category, background, capacity, and experience, is worth a total of 25 points. The first part being background and capacity, which is worth a total of 10 points. This is where you will clearly describe your organization's mission, its governing structure, how your executive team looks. And you'll also let us know here if you have any prior funding experience, if you have received grants before and your success with those grants. And this is just to give the evaluators or reviewers a sense of your capacity to implement grant funding and grant projects. Please also let us know the sources of your funding, which is federal, state, or city, county, private foundation, or even OHA. If you have received funding from OHA in the last 3 years, please note that as well. The other part that is included in that 10-point section is identifying all the personnel and or consultants / contractors that you will be working with on this proposed program. Tell us how much time they will be dedicating to the program, and also provide their experience. If you are using consultants or contractors, please also provide their experience and their expected duties and responsibilities as well. This next section is worth 5 points. This is the experience section where you will tell us about your organization and your team's experience with the proposed services. The number of years is important to list here. We do require a minimum of 3 years of experience, and the dates of the service provided. If you are using a consultant or contractor, again, please detail their experience and number of years of experience here. This question can be a little confusing, but I want to try and make it clear here. The 50% or more Native Hawaiian client participant base question is worth 0 or 10 points. There are no in-betweens here. So here you shall clearly demonstrate that your client or participant base is comprised of 50% or more Native Hawaiians. So you can use data, you can use your annual reports, you can use statistics or any information from your organization that helps the reviewers clearly see that you serve 50% or more of Native Hawaiians as your client or participant base. An example that I usually give, it's an obvious one, but it's an easy one, is Kamehameha schools. So they are not eligible to apply, but if they were and they applied, they would get the 10 points because they clearly serve 50% or more Native Hawaiians, if not 99.9% or 100%. of Native Hawaiian client base. If you have any questions or if this is unclear to you, please email grantsinfo@oha.org for clarity, and we can provide that in writing. The next category is your project design, which is worth a total of 25 points. The first subcategory is the needs assessment or program project impact, worth 10. Here is where you'll use data and evidence-based knowledge to demonstrate that your target population that you're proposing to serve is in need for these proposed services. Tell us how many Native Hawaiian individuals that you are anticipating to serve, and demonstrate the impact that you will have on the target population that you're serving. The program or project design section is worth 15 points. And here is where you will tell us in detail a comprehensive picture of your program design. You will include all the details here, the tasks, who's doing what, and in what time frame. It's pretty much like a scope of services here. Also part of project delivery is your program plan. This is a form that you will download from the application as well. Complete the form and then re-upload it. We recommend that applicants, when they start working on this section of their application, you download this form first and complete this form prior to submitting your responses for project design. Because this form actually is just a breakdown or an outline of your project design. So it gives a little bit of a glimpse, a snapshot of what your program looks like. And then once you get that into this form, you can then go ahead and complete this question and give us all the little details of your program. Again, this form is worth 10 points, and it is just a breakdown of your program. And we recommend that you do the program plan first prior to completing your project design question. The outreach strategies and collaborations section of this project delivery category is worth 5 points. So here's where you tell us what your strategies for outreach are to recruit participants or even to provide services. If you do have collaborations, we encourage you to upload your commitment letters. Those are not mandatory or not required, but we do encourage that for the reviewers to evaluate as part of the process. The evaluation section is comprised of 3 parts and is worth a total of 10 points. The quality assurance part is where you will explain to us how you will continue your services and continue the quality of your services should you experience any type of emergency or vacancies in your program staff. So just explain to us how you will assure this quality service of your program. The next section is regarding your outputs and outcomes. And you just explain to us here what the success of the program looks like. So you just describe how you track your outputs and outcomes, how you document them if you are having participants and creating files for them, what tools you are using to measure your success or evaluation methods. And basically telling us what we have to look for in order for your program to look successful and to look accomplished. And the final item under the evaluation section is your performance measurement table. Again, this is a document that you will download from the application, complete, and re-upload. But these are your actual outputs and outcomes and your target numbers for each output and outcome. So it kind of looks like this. This is the first part of the performance measurement table, which addresses your outputs. And these could be one or all of the outputs listed here. These are examples, and if they pertain to your project, please include them and note your target number of deliverables or participants here in this column. So for example, if you are planning to provide training for teachers, you want to provide 3 trainings per quarter, you would list that here. So that would amount to 12 trainings over the year. So number of completed trainings would be 12 here. Number of Native Hawaiian participants in the project. If you anticipate serving 100 Native Hawaiian participants, you would note that here. Again, these are only if they pertain to your project. And if you have other outputs that are not listed here, please feel free to add them and include your target number here. We do encourage that you include other outputs that are relevant to your program. The bottom portion of the performance measurement table includes the outcomes. For this particular grant, these are the outcomes that OHA is expecting from these applications. One or all of these, you don't have to meet all of these outcomes, just one. And if it does pertain to your program, please list a target number here. But just a tip, you need to at least meet one of these outcomes and have a target number for at least one of these outcomes. Again, if you feel that you need to add other outcomes, feel free to do that as well. Here's a continuation of the outcomes for this particular grant. And the additional reporting information is not required, but if you would like to share other information with us, such as your participant surveys, or if you do videos for your project, anything of that qualitative nature, if you would like to save or share that with us, you can include a listing of those things here. The next section is in regards to the alignment with OHA's strategic plan. We do have a new strategic plan that was just recently released, and these grants are based on the foundations of that strategic plan. The 3 foundations are listed here: Aina, Mo'omeheu, and Ohana. And in this question, you will demonstrate how your project aligns with one or more of these foundations. The second part of this category is the strategic directions and outcomes. And this is also worth 10 points. So this is where you'll clearly demonstrate how your project is aligned with our strategic outcomes. And this is the strategic outcome that is relevant to this particular grant. It is strategic outcome educational pathways, and strategy number 2, support education through Hawaiian language medium and focused charter schools. The particular outcome that we're looking at here is 2.1, which is adequately resource Hawaiian focused charter schools and Hawaiian medium schools, including availability of qualified teachers. So this is a direct, this strategic outcome is directly impacted by this grant. The financial portion is the final portion of the application, and it's worth a total of 5 points. You're required to submit a budget, and that budget form is also downloaded from the application, completed, and re-uploaded. It is an Excel form that is locked, but I want to ensure you that you are allowed to add rows to the budget categories. You just need to highlight the cell in a row that you want to add a row to and click insert row. Everything else is locked, so it seems like you can't add a row to the budget form, but you can. If you do have issues with that, please contact us and we can walk you through the process. Just shoot us an email at grantsinfo@oha.org, leave us your name and number, and we will contact you to walk you through that. Your budget should demonstrate that a complete, accurate, and justified budget. There is a space for you to provide a description or a justification for each budget line item. Again, you need to upload this form to that question in order for that question to be complete. The second part of the financial question is your cash match and proof of funding commitment. So earlier in the application, you were required to upload a cash match form, which included all your sources of your cash match. I want to point out here that all sources must be cash sources and not OHA funding sources. Also, in-kind services are ineligible for this cash match requirement. The proof of funding commitment are your letters or bank statements or board certification that proves you have the match funding. If you do list pending sources, please note those pending sources in the cash match form and let us know prior to the grant award recommendation that your pending sources have been confirmed. We will follow up with you if we need that information as well during the evaluation process. The final part to the financial question is accounting management, and here's where you will demonstrate your accounting system to us. If you're using an accountant or an outside accounting agency, please note that here and let us know what their system looks like and how their tracking of your OHA funding would look like. You should identify whether you have dedicated accounting staff, and if not, explain who manages your accounting system. and also tell us how you track your OHA funds separately from your other funding sources. We do also have disallowed costs. If you do include them in your budget and you are awarded, we do reserve the right to remove any of those items from your budget and not make the award for them. Here's a list of those disallowed costs. And one thing to point out is that food is also on this list. It hasn't been on the list in previous years, but we did include it here because it's really hard to track this item. And I also wanted to point out these indirect costs here. So you may know indirect costs as salaries or facilities costs. Those costs are allowed, but they need to be their own separate line items in your budget. What we mean here when we say indirect costs is not allowed is that you are not allowed to just say that indirect costs are is your budget line item, and it has to be broken down and specified. These indirect costs have to be specified. They cannot be its own line item as such. Sometimes you see it as administrative costs as well. So both indirect and administrative costs as their own budget line items are disallowed. Those types of costs need to be specified in each line item. Again, if you need clarification on that, feel free to email us at grantsinfo@oha.org. Some other things to point out for travel. In-state travel is the only travel that's allowed. And you do need to provide justification for your travel in order for that part of your budget to be approved, should you be awarded. And also, just something to keep in mind is that with COVID, there's a lot of different COVID-related orders and such with different islands. So just keep that in mind when it comes to your transportation costs. And the final thing is equipment purchases. If you do feel the need to purchase equipment for your grant, just ensure that it is justified and that you will continue to use those equipments beyond the life of the grant. Okay, that completes the application section. Phase 2 is the evaluation and recommendation for award phase, and this is OHA's kuleana. And what will happen here is once you submit your award, your application, and the due date has come up, we take all the applications, we review them for eligibility, and then it moves on to our evaluation or review teams for their comprehensive, fair, and impartial review. We do have all external evaluators for all Native Hawaiian, and no internal OHA employees participate in this part of the process. So know that your applications are all scored by external people from the community. They will review your applications and use the evaluation criteria that we went over and the scoring matrix as well. The applications with the highest scores shall be reviewed and are subject to recommendation of award. These recommendations will be presented to the OHA Board of Trustees for approval. And once we obtain that approval, an email notification will be sent to everyone, all applicants, whether you are awarded or not. and that email will come from the grants portal. Again, the application deadline is Friday, April 16th, 2021 at 2:00 p.m. It is an electronic application. So once this time comes, the system will automatically lock the application. I will point out, and I think the solicitation also points this out, is that there will be no exceptions to this rule. We do not accept any handwritten hard copy application or faxed or emailed applications. All applications need to come through this system and be received by this time. And finally, please don't call us. I know some of you may have some of our phone numbers, but please reach out to us via these emails. These are emails that we check every day, all day pretty much. So please know that if you email either one of these email addresses, we will get back to you within 24 business, 24 business hours. You should expect a response to your inquiry to either of these email addresses. Again, please do not call. We are working remotely, so we do not have access to our office telephone numbers until we go to the office. If we do go to the office, your best bet is to email either of these email addresses. Mahalo nui for listening in on this orientation. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to email us at grantsinfo@oha.org. Good luck with your applications and malama pono. Aloha.